grandfather hesitates, standing in his driveway, halfway between my car parked along the curb and his own car parked in the garage. This was the moment I feared, when the routine of a 90-year-old man collided with a new reality. No more driving, says the doctor. No more license, says the DMV. Up to this point, things had been going so well. When I arrived to pick him up, my grandfather flew out of his chair, abandoning whatever show was on television. He never did sit still for long, and I imagine having his license taken away must have been very hard for him. It dawned on me that this might be the highlight of his day, helping his grandson with his house, being put to good use. My grandmother straightened his barely worn flannel shirt and with a kiss sent the electrician out the door. A good start for sure, but when he slows in the driveway, I worry. The tools are in his truck, but he's not allowed to drive, so he hesitates. He eyes my car, then looks up and down the street. He stares at the parking sign that reads, "No parking, 9 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday." And though it's a Saturday, he still seems unsure. "Why don't I pull out of the driveway and you park in my spot?" he says. Though I don't understand the reasons, I'm content with delaying this awkward handoff, so I oblige. My grandfather backs up his car and pulls forward into the street, illegally. I take his place in the driveway and head towards the unknown. As I approach the driver's side of his car, memories begin flooding in, like warning bells. These moments, like photographs, reminding me of where I belong. That time I spilled tadpoles in my grandfather's RV, the smell never quite leaving the carpeting. Hiding in the trunk of my grandmother's car. Her turning the joke back around on us by driving us to the store like that. Riding in the passenger seat of my grandfather's truck as a teenager, working alongside him all over the San Fernando Valley. None of these memories have me behind the wheel. It takes a few minutes for us to settle into our new roles. I feel like a kid whose dad is taking him driving for the first time, as my grandfather explains where all the buttons and knobs are in his car. But as we hit the freeway, I feel a calm wash over us, and something wonderful happens. My grandfather, no longer squinting at the fading and blurry shapes speeding by, no longer white-knuckling the steering wheel as he navigates a world that has certainly passed him by, slouches a bit in his seat and lets out a sigh. Not needing to focus on the present, he goes somewhere else, and seeing the twinkle in his eye, I know what's coming next. There is no bright flash or strange machine from a science fiction film, and yet, as if by magic, with a smile that's buried in another time, my grandfather transports us back to the past. His smile is one of wonder and bewilderment. He laughs and lets me in on the joke. "You know, when I was a boy in Turkey, we rode everywhere in a horse and buggy." He shakes his head. "Can you imagine?" He pauses, letting the thought sink in. "You see, my father owned a country store, and once a week, a truck would come to stock up the supplies, and all the children would come out to see it, their eyes this big." He lets out a big laugh as he gestures with his hands, and I see what he sees. These hundreds of speeding cars on a highway, as mundane to us as anything in our modern world, and that one beat-up truck coughing down a dirt road, the greatest marvel those kids had ever seen. And I feel like I understand his hesitation just a bit. He goes on about his life, the hardships growing up in Eastern Europe during World War II, the sound of gunfire in the distance following him along the Baltic Sea, the kindness of strangers that allowed him to survive, these small acts without which I wouldn't be alive today. My head swims with these thoughts. Some of his stories I've heard and forgotten. Some I could probably tell word for word. I'm only driving 65, but it's far too fast for this trip down memory lane. I'm terribly disappointed when we get off the freeway, knowing that our time machine is running out of steam. For maybe the first time ever, I wish we had hit some traffic on the grade, selfishly hoping that the stories could stretch out a bit longer. We pull into my driveway, and though I turn off the car's engine, there's one more story to tell. The time machine is still running, the history, the memory flowing through him like very blood in his veins. He tells me about the first car he ever bought after emigrating to Canada in the 1960s. It was an old English Morris sedan he paid $50 for while working on the Canadian Railway. It had traffic haters, these mechanical turn signal flags that would flip up when he wanted to turn left or right. When he went for his driving test, it was the dead of winter, 40 below zero in Winnipeg, and his turn signals had frozen in place. Not wanting to fail his driving test, my grandfather rolled down the window to signal a turn with his arm. The driving instructor screamed at him, "Are you crazy?" as they both began to feel the immediate onset of death. Despite the weather, or perhaps because of it, my grandfather got his driver's license in one of the shortest driving exams in history. Though I've heard this one before, we both have another good laugh. His stories are over, but I feel another piece of the puzzle fall into place. His hesitation becomes more understandable still. I get out of the car and lock it, still thinking about my grandfather and all the things he's been through. As I walk toward the house, standing in my own driveway now, it's my turn to hesitate. These keys in my hand seem too heavy, and I realize they aren't mine. They won't open my front door. Before fishing my keys out of my pocket, I turn to my grandfather and hand his keys over. I'll need them back in a couple hours to take him home, but he should hold on to them for now. After all, I'm just the